This game, as Simon says, this is pulling out of the rare pile. I've got a couple of these. They're prototypes of the Men of Iron series, which is expanded to Infidel and Blood and Roses. I haven't gotten a chance to play Blood and Roses yet. As a prototype, it's, well, fairly cheaply presented. You got terrain map that looks very much like somebody tried to do it with magic markers, and I'm guessing it was originally printed with magic marker, or made up from a magic marker map, and then available through a cheap printing process. The stock on the counters is nearly non-existent. It suggests mounting them. I didn't really do that. I picked this up used. Somebody had already cut them. I did mount some of the counters, not really mounted, but I backsided the knights, which have a mounted and dismounted function to them. I find that kind of useful. So actually, if you're familiar with Men of Iron, this is pretty close to the same game. And it focuses on Simon de Montfort's Earl of Leicester. I think he's the first Earl of Leicester. Revolts, the baronial revolts, where really this, not Runnymede, not this particular battle, but this era, and de Montfort, and rather than King John and Runnymede, is the real establishment of what I would say is the more democratic institutions in England's history. Obviously, you know, not to downgrade the Magna Carta, but this is, Simon is the instigator of the parliamentary establishment. He was a strange critter overall. But for the battles themselves, you know, I don't know how much to go into. I don't really remember that much of Men of Iron, and then I scan this and it looks almost the same. There's one key difference that I can recall, and this is maybe a little sloppier in some of the rules, but I'm fine with that, is somewhere in the Men of Iron series, and it's either with Men of Iron or with Infidel, they started tracking, you couldn't have continuous continuations. I don't know if the first game had it. This game does not have it. You get an activation, you can roll for an activation with your next unit, you can control the game all game if nobody trumps in and if you never fail a die roll. Anything else terribly exciting here? Combat seems fairly much the same. There's a set of charts and tables here. I don't know if they're entirely the same. You fire, I believe this is the same. You use, the fire combat uses the same combat resolution system that I believe infantry attack does. I had this in a moment, but you check the fire DRM, roll a die, and then you look at the infantry combat results table to see what happens. And nothing happens to the attacker in that case. I think there's a little bit more refinement in Men of Iron with that, where there's actually a fire table separate. I'm not positively sure. You have a number of different modifiers here. Attacker disordered, let's see. This is actually the combat results. The modifiers are here. So one of the key factors with the series as a whole is the number here is sort of the defensive rating. And that's your prime modifier in combat, is when you attack something, it's the defender's armor and protection rating that really is the key factor. Now, on the other hand, Cav charging gets a bonus, downhill gives you a positional, gives you a bonus, either the hill location or the flanks. Leadership gives an advantage in combat, etc. Rallying is done based on this flag, and I don't really recall the rally rules too well. I read it all through, and then I forgot half of it. No, it's just a combat unit, which I didn't think could stack. I don't think combat units can stack. Small band, the standard is treated like any other combat unit except it cannot attack. It's sort of your goal here, so I should probably move those. Dismounting infantry gives you a benefit on defense for any infantry that they're dismounting knights gives you a benefit for any infantry that they're adjacent to. So Simon has actually interspersed a la Agincourt all his nobility to stiffen the spine of some of those units. For the battle itself, and we'll kind of work through it, because obviously I'm not as familiar with the rules as I want it to be. I'm not doing an intro here. The Royalist is going to go first, and he gets an automatic free activation on Edward's group, which has charged out and is striking first. And historically they did quite well. However, Henry the third here is going to lose the battle. It loses the battle historically as well. Uphill and downhill refers to hexes south of but excluding the road. I guess this is the road. Which would be leveled, I suppose. And basically you have rising terrain going up here as you get darker and darker. There is, I believe, a movement cost to going uphill, and from what I understand, the way uphill and downhill are referred to, it doesn't have to actually be a terrain level difference. It's just if you're heading generally uphill or generally downhill, you get the bonus. The terrain's considered to be sloping everywhere. And what did we have? How do we win? We have a loss level, which is going to be based on missile infantry are worth 1, 2 points for spear and cavalry, 3 points for Simon, 5 points for the standard itself, which is considered more important than the leader. Of course, when Cav attack, they have a possibility of pursuing the enemy off the field if they rout them, and they end up in these boxes. They can come back, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to get them there. Okay, so I've got to put Henry's standard somewhere. Simon's standard is supposed to be in 1122, and I don't have that on the board yet. Which is, I guess, here. And that can be activated on its own, from what I can tell. Ah, here we go. The Royalist kill level is 25, the Baronial is 20. That's going to be the level at which they have to, once they've taken enough losses. Once they take that many points of losses, they've lost the game. And that's all that it is. It's a kill game. And we'll see how this plays out. I mean, it's Men of Iron. We know it's going to work pretty well, right? The Cav are more effective here than the original Men of Iron. More on the lines with Infidel and anything else of that earlier period. There's 2 battles in this one. There's also Evesham, and I have another one of these prototypical games that I want to hit at some point as well. There's the first movement. Because Edward's forces had to climb 2 elevation levels, they paid an extra movement point. A little bit of confusion here because I've got some archers surrounded by the knights. I'm hoping that doesn't cause me too much trouble. We'll see how that works. Now I get to check for a continuation. Now Edward can't roll. He's got a 5. These guys each have 3. I could roll for them. Alternatively, I can attempt a seizure. Which essentially is the same as a continuation. Basically, trumping in works the same way. So now, in order to succeed, I have to roll equal to or less than. It's easier for these guys to fail and an auto fall to happen here. So I think seizures are going to be very, very unlikely with this system. The only exception is that Simon down here is very good. He's got a 5 rating, and I ought to put him somewhere else. He's got to be, I got to get these command radiuses fixed. I noticed I had Cromwell or Cornwall somewhere stupid too. He's only got a 4 radius. That gets all his units. I think everything of Henry's is in range except for the standard, which I can live with. Likewise, Simon's standard is not in range either. So, let's say we're going to try to move Cornwall forward. Now, with 3 battles, you're kind of in this weird position where you want to use your good guy, but you kind of want all your forces to come forward at once as well, and it just makes life a little difficult for us. So the English get to go with these guys, and they'll come charging forward as well. Now we try again with Edward. He needs a 5. He's pretty decent. This is, of course, King Edward I here, who as a prince. Not that Montfort's forces aren't mostly English. And he gets to go again. And we're going to charge in. Now, combat, I believe in this, is done after all movement. Trying to remember how this all works. Let's see, we got a sequence of play somewhere, but it's not much of one. Yeah, combat's done after all movement because you can combine units for flanking, for getting positional advantage. So I'll come back after I move some of that. Back after I move 1, we've got some charging cav here. There are some significant differences here. So the standards in the old Men of Iron series and the Men of Iron games, that's where disordered units or something go to. They get flung back there or something. I don't know. Here, disorder is just a condition that happens to the troops. They don't have to rally. In fact, only disordered mounted cav are allowed to remove that status, and they spend their action doing nothing, and then they recover to full strength. If you have dismounted cavalry, you would have to spend an action to mount, and then try to rally them, and then you could dismount them again if you like, if that's what you wish to do. And we got counters for dismounted. We've got the cav charge here. But let's take care of this shot while we've got it. We've got... Those look like normal bowmen rather than crossbowmen. They're firing their automatic fire for having their frontal hex entered. So they get a +2 to the die roll. I don't know why I have some 6-sided dice from the last game. And let's see, infantry attack at +2. Let's see if there are any, we get the benefit of the armor. That drops us to +1. So we get a 5, that's no result, and we're going to have to take that charge now. And I'll continue, we have other archers here, not this. These are just spearmen, and we'll see what we can do to that flank. After more ineffective bow fire, and remember, these are not your longbowmen in general. I think they're an option in the other scenario, having some longbowmen. So now, we're charging in, and we've got to do bonk, 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 bonk. Okay, we're all one-on-one. You have to attack every unit if you choose to attack. So in this case, we've got some charging cav hitting some +1 spearmen. And non-charging cav use the infantry table as well. Let's see what we got here. I believe the defenders are uphill, the way this is handles that. So that's going to be a -1. And we counter that out with a +1. What's attacker's strength advantage? Oh, if you got more than one unit hitting at once. Okay, so we're at even, but make it +1 for the lousy defensive value there. And we use charging cav, and we get a 6. Defender disordered, retreat a hex. If it was already disordered, it would have been eliminated. So, he goes back, he picks up one of these bad boys, which we have to remember. And do I take the hex? I don't remember. Let me see. Yes, I not only do, I must, but I get a facing change if I want it. And by my reading of this game, although I think Men of Iron may have changed this, or may have, by my memory of Men of Iron, although I think this was changed in Infidel, something was, if there were archers in the background, they would get to shoot me as I come in. I like that, so I'd keep that anyway. Men of Iron maybe intended, I don't know, something intended that. So we got another charging cav. This time there's a leader present. And this is, ooh, I didn't have quite, I should have been stiffened by that infantry. Well, I think I would have been disordered, but not, I think I rolled a 5, I don't know. I don't know if I rolled a 5 or a 6. We'll leave it as it is. So this guy gives me, what gave me the -1? Oh, uphill. Okay. So this guy gives me a -2, and a leader gives me another -1. So I'm at -3 versus the charging cav and the hill, which is all at even. So I'm at -3 on the charging cav. That doesn't sound good. And I get an attacker disordered. We'll take care of that. And we go so on. Charging. These guys are +1, but they're steadied by the infantry this time. So it sounds like a 0 to me. Uphill versus charging, and that +1 with a -1 on it. We get a 5 that's disordered and a retreat. We have facing in this, of course. We get to hit with another one here. Oop, we got a leader. Oh, these guys suck. These are my archers. They're screwed. Okay, uphill versus charging cancels out. But there's +3 troops, and they're not infantry, so they couldn't be steadied even so. And we have a +1 as well. So +4 on the charge. We get defender disordered, which is the absolute weakest result we could get, but it's kind of cool because otherwise, if we break through there, we might end up pursuing them off the board. Here, continue attack allows you, once you hit something, you just keep going, and you may be cutting into another unit or something. Okay, and the other one should be the same. It should be +3 instead of +4. And we positioned our archers over here to start rolling up the flank and giving them some protective fire. So what did I say? +3. 10. Defender disordered, retreat a hex, and continue. Okay, so we get the disorder. These guys are no longer charging. Charge is a very specific thing. And I have to make another attack. I don't know if I make it against another unit. Continued attack. Cavalry must move and melee again. Any and all units within its ZOC. Okay, so I got to hit both of those, which means the defender is going to be stronger at this point because they have 2 units available. But I've got a flank attack going on here. All right, let's see. So we're going partway uphill. And we're not charging anymore. So it looks to me like +2 for that. Make it +1. +2. Okay, +3 for the weapon. Drops to +2 for going uphill. +1 for there being an extra unit. The DRM, though, gets us back up to +2, and I think the flank attack is going to get us all the way back up to +3 against both of those. And they're both disordered, so I might end up pursuing them off the board. Defender eliminated may pursue. May pursue. I roll a die, and if I get a 5 or higher, the unit pursues off the map, including its defensive modifier. I do not. No, I'm sorry, it was this unit. So these 2 units have been destroyed. Push forward into that hex. Remove this, I guess. I don't know what's going on anymore. And I get some points for those kills. What do I get for points? I get... I think missiles are only worth 1 each. Yeah. So I'm at 2 points, and I'm going to have to keep track of that on paper because there's no handy table for this one. That means my die roll is again... it really doesn't make much difference, to tell you the truth. But it means that de Montfort has the first chance to get an activation out of the 2 sides. Wow. I'm going to have to remember who went last. Put some kind of marker, like this eraser, because I need to take a little break. So, Henry tried to get the continuation, failed. And that throws things over here. I decided to start with Montfort. He's going to fire these crossbowmen. He can slip them through here. Trace a line of fire, I believe. It's hard to catch that. But it looks like I've got it. It's hard to tell because these big counters are too big for the hex. Now, there I'm firing, geez, this just at some knights. They've got a -2, and at the range, that brings it to -3, so chances are I'm not going to hit. But there's a possibility, I suppose, isn't there? No. So I don't want to fire. So I got to figure out what I might want to do with Montfort. I don't know if it costs to change facing. I gotta check that. So I've stiffened the line with a 2nd rank here, and I've sent Simon's own heavies into attack. Now they're not particularly good. This is the problem with infantry in this period. It's got a penalty for attacking. I'm attacking though the flank of these horses, I don't think get any kind of reaction to that in this game. They get countercharge reactions if they're charged, but that is the only... Yeah, that is the only time when you get it, and you can't countercharge infantry attacking you. So, I've got a -2 infantry attacking. None of those other units count, which is a problem with not being... I should have activated the other battle, perhaps. -2, Let's see if there's anything else here. The attacker. Brings it to -3 for infantry attacking. But it's through a flank. Ooh, that's +2. I only counted it as +1. So overall, what did I say? I was at -3, make it -2 for infantry attacking. This is not going to be good. 4, no result on the cav there. Now I get to make a continuation. I'll try that with these guys. And they fail, which means I'm going to move Henry because it's easier for me to do things with Edward, even though Edward's in a more important position right now. Henry made his movement. Edward got a continuation, and then the world split apart, and I gotta fix the damn map. There's a problem with this kind of crap. I've swung his archers around to the side because they can't really duel effectively at the range they were at against crossbowmen. Crossbowmen get a -1, the archers get a -3. So we'll be up here, plus the defensive value is bad. If I had fired, I would have been fired back on, and I would have been at a disadvantage. We got Cav attacking all along here. This guy's kind of not in the best of positions. He's hitting 2 units, but everybody else is kind of advantaged right now. This attack is beginning to disintegrate. Lost a unit here, which cost us 2 because that was a Cav. Over here we got disorders running. Not only did the disadvantaged guy get hurt, here, because there was a disordered unit, I put the penalty in play, even though both units weren't disordered. It doesn't specify which unit to use for value if you're attacking with multiple units. I think Men of Iron says pick one, but I've been averaging. So for example, here we had a +2 for these guys and a 0 for this guy, so hitting both of them gave a +1. +1 for, or -1 because they have an extra unit, but I forgot to throw the flank modifier in, didn't I? Which would have equaled that all out. Which I think disorders them as well. Take a couple points off the Baron. Just to fix something there. You know, the rule, and because there's a destroyed space, these guys have to charge in, and they're going to face this way. You kind of gotta guesstimate with the rules here, which I got no problem doing. It's certainly not, you know, a ready for prime time situation. 1 unit of Edward's command pursued off the map. I kind of cheated. Disordered units shouldn't be allowed to attack, which would have fixed some of the problems there. But anyway, we'll just keep rolling with this. So these guys aren't going to attack, but these guys are. And we've got the Montfort making his activation. And I can move my flag a little too. Edward trumps the continuation before it gets attempted and pulls his forces back. He's going to regroup. He's got mounted cav. He can undisorder them, which should be helpful. However, he's got to come to his next activation, which means de Montfort is probably going to allow Henry's forces to take the next continuation role, because that's more likely to give the command over to his side. If he can swing his forces around and push against Edward's troops, it probably will work out well for him. Well, Edward, having taken the last initiative, meant that one of these 3-pointers had to try for initiative next. Failed, went over to Montfort, and his line marched up. And see, he actually took a hit on his archer. The crossbowman turned and tried to fire the mutual damage, and then these infantry tried to march up to attack, and they got damaged, so they can't. The rest of the line's moving up, covering against any possible attack by Edward. These infantry actually marched up and destroyed one of Edward's horsemen, though, which gives us 19 royal, 13 baronial points left. At this point, it's kind of tricky. I'm not sure who I would want to try to take an activation. I suppose I'll try to take one here with whoever the hell this guy is. I don't know his name. It's unreadable on the counter. That'll be de Sagrave. Except Edward wanted to trump it and succeeded. So Edward's going to be able to undemoralize his 2 cav, which is absolutely vital to him. And I don't know if he really wants to do... I guess he'll fire some archers. I'm not sure whether or not to launch an attack with these cav. They're actually within range. They could charge the infantry here and break it, so I'll probably try that. The archers succeeded in killing one of the units. The other unit, though, the 2 cav charged it and broke on the on de Montfort leading the infantry. That's pretty good infantry there with a -2 defensive. It's going to be tough stuff to break up. Now we're left with the choice for de Montfort, whether he wants to try to seize initiative himself, which makes no sense. He'll let them roll on a 3. And they do not get it, so now he gets to choose any of his people to go. I think he's going to take de Montfort himself and try to bust up the infantry. If he can slip behind the archers, that'll be helpful as well. As units get disorganized, though, they become totally worthless in this. They just become points to protect by shunting them off. De Sagrave or whatever, his initiative failed. You see Cornwall marching up. I feel like I got to get more troops in play to get a chance here, but now I can try to roll for an initiative with Edward. And actually de Montfort wants to try to trump that because he's got a better chance of succeeding in getting the initiative that way. And he does succeed. So now the question is what he wants to do with that. And he's going to try to press to destroy the units back here, these disordered units. Some of them are archers, but they're going to have penalties firing. Another opportunity, cav can't react. Well, it can withdraw from combat when attacked by infantry, which is something I've been forgetting to do. Yeah, it's pretty hard to attack with the infantry, and I've been kind of screwing that up. Yeah, I don't know what to do there then. Remembering that from the last game, I don't see any possible cav withdrawal here. I think that's from the game I was just playing, and I'm just remembering it. So yeah, Montfort can launch an attack, possibly against the flank there. Well, that didn't go too well. Much of his force is disordered now, although he did manage to smack one of the cav units back with that dual, more than a flank, hitting from, what is it? I don't know where it's listed. Attack is through front, rear, flank, rear combination. He was hitting front, flank. That kind of pins units and gets you the best +4 modifier to the attack, and he just waxed it. Now I think the best option for the Brits is to try to move Edward. You see that without the techniques of the other system, where like a men of iron system, where a failed interrupt gives the opponent a chance to do something they wouldn't normally get to do for free. It's fairly reasonable to, I guess, just always try to trump in with your best leader when you can, basically. The difference, of course, is with the English, they have these poor leaders here who Montfort might be willing to allow to try a continuation, to let them try continuations, because he's more likely to get the flow on his side. The game certainly has improved with age, and in fact, I don't think that the Berg versions are the best. The best that I've seen is Guelphs and Ghibellines here, which actually kind of mixes the strength point situation from Great Battles of History into the system, but that's a little more complicated. This one feels like it needed, the development work that came with real production quality. It's nice to have the extra scenarios, though, I'll have to say that. Edward's mixture of withdrawing units and trying to fire and everything. You can see this is just a disordered mess of intermingled forces at various angles. Really, really hard to decipher with the counters in this game. And then he succeeded in getting an initiative on Henry. Now that it's back to his side, de Montfort's going to want to trump in here, and he succeeds. I got to try to puzzle out how he's going to get out of there. He's pretty much wrecked his own command, though. Swung around with his cav and disordered the last of de Montfort's forces. Now, his infantry largely is useless, but he has the couple knightly units which he could mount up and rally. Meanwhile, Edward's own unit rallied back here. His archers fired some pretty useless fire. They're disordered. And we're going to let, again, the English take the chance at continuation, which they fail at, which means I get an action here. I probably don't want to use de Montfort for this because he's better at getting rolls. So I'm going to try to finish Edward's forces off here. So there was really only one unit left under this guy, and he slammed into the back of Edward and ended up disordered out of it. Edward tries to seize the initiative, fails. That hands it over automatically to de Montfort. He's going to activate, I believe, what was that, Gloucester? As he's slowly peeling forces away to deal with the Edward threat. He's hoping he'll have a decent line once these guys finally make it up. And that choice, that of course means de Montfort wants the next activation, so Edward's going to trump in before he can roll that and try to use his forces. Now these guys can't come charging into battle, so I don't know, I may try to bring them closer and try to hit this infantry here. I think something of a pathological cycle, which is de Montfort keeps trying to trump in and failing, and I'm getting, you know, one of these slower units. We'll see if he manages it again. Yeah, and we're just going to keep pressing forward with these because getting the weight of our forces into play, I think, would be greatly helpful to the king's cause. Montfort got his activation. He mounted up a couple of his cav, hoping, hey, maybe I'll get to recover them. However, he got trumped in by Edward, and I think we're going to see Edward charging, at least there. This guy can't charge, he's too far away. Charge was very successful, and now the idea of trumping him with de Montfort doesn't necessarily do me any good whatsoever. Of course, Edward just went, so I can wait and see if there's a failure either on Henry or these guys. These guys are archers up front. I'm kind of afraid to bring them any closer, but they're not very useful at that range. The point values right now are 15 left for the Royals and only 5 left for the Barons. They've really gotten badly used here. And after moving some of these forward, we saw this guy start mounting up. Edward rallied. This guy's now got the initiative and is going to continue with his rally. That gives me a shot to try to take the activation away with Edward again. And he fails, which means I can take it to somewhere else. Now, de Montfort doesn't do me any good whatsoever. I've got to decide between the two baronial forces. Which one's more likely to get something done? Probably this one, but I'm kind of scared to move them. These guys just went. Because, well, I'm frightened of archers, I guess. But, you know, if I can't bust up the archers, I don't know what I can do. And over here I'm facing more cav. I'm kind of afraid to come forward. But here, you know, if I move forward, I'm opening up the rear of those units to Edward. But, you know, honestly, Edward can just avoid and start hitting up de Montfort's routed stuff anyway. So I got to hope for a lot to go right for me here. So Edward failed to get his initiative, and now the question is what's going to go next. I think I'm going to try to go with Gloucester again, which Edward has to try to trump yet again. And he fails, which means Gloucester can automatically go if I wish, or, you know, I can move it somewhere else. But these guys have moved over to help protect the hill and the flag and all of that. from any possible attack from this side. I don't want to hit that whole wing head on with what's basically just infantry. Things didn't go too well for Gloucester. He even got repulsed from this flank attack here. These guys didn't got one kill basically. And now Edward just won the initiative. We're going to do some archery here. We're penalized for being demoralized or disordered. We're at range 2. That puts it at -2. -3 for the horses. Not very likely. I think we need a 9 to hit, and the other guy is going to shoot as well. No. So now I got to decide what I'm doing with these. I think I'm charging. We'll charge with both of these. So if we can knock him out, that's good. So now the attack is at -1. I'm going uphill. It's at -2. Leaders cancel out. I got an extra unit that brings it up to -1. I think that's it. And we're on the charging cap. Yep, chance of a counter charge. Forgot about this. It was successful. So that means it cancels out the charge benefit. The -1 there cancels that out. So what was I at? I was at -1, -2. Let's call it -2. I don't know if this is still on the charge table. I think it is. Defender should be disordered if that's the case. I don't think it cancels out the charge completely. Yeah, it just gets rid of the DRM, which means we have a disordered cav here. We got to make a leader loss check. This guy's got a rating of 4, which means on an 8 or higher he's killed. Oh. Now what? Do we want to allow them to try to take the initiative, to try to roll for the initiative? I think so, because it gives us our best chance of grabbing it, as usual. And now we get to do one. I think it's still got to be Gloucester, but he's not in as good a shape as he once was. Talking about some of the archers here. Edward gets the initiative again, and it looks to me like this calf charge marker shouldn't still be there. We'll open up with some archery fire. I don't know what this archer is going to do. He may reposition himself to try to shoot up some of these guys. But then we're going to go to the melee combat. And that's not enough to finish things, even if the leader goes, I think. Cornwall's archers have been pretty much wiped out. The attack here didn't work. Continuing fire here, and I'm going to try to continue to seize continuation with Edward. Basically, I'm in a race here, but it looks like one I'm guaranteed to win. I only have to kill 3 points of units. They have to kill 12, and I can pretty much wipe these 2 infantry out and take it. So, if I don't get initiative, I cannot, which may mean that I actually throw the initiative over. This Gloucester guy should have gotten out of here. He doesn't want to be around there. That's pretty doomed. I can't do Gloucester again. I'm going to actually pull back De Montfort. That'll get my flag and the yummies out of the way for a little bit. Gloucester's attack failed. Edward is picking on those poor archers right now. It's time for me to take a break. Edward's got the initiative. He's going to be forced to roll for one of these 2 forces. If he gets it, he gets to do a lot of damage. That's the problem. But the odds are, it doesn't really matter who gets the initiative, who rolls and who doesn't. when it comes down to it, he's got a lesser chance of succeeding rolling for his own continuation than someone on de Montfort's side has in trying to roll. But it's pretty much over at this point. So the initiative fails to transfer to Cornwall, and instead Henry, who is Simon's brother, I guess, charges into the fray. He doesn't have any chance of winning this, but we got some angle attacks here. Infantry hitting cav at -1 for infantry attacking, +2 for the angle though. So +1. Oh, he gets a good roll. That's gonna disorder these and send them flying back somewhere. I guess I'll push them up here. Here we've actually got 2 hitting, which gives me the big +4. Make it +3 for infantry, +1 because the quality of that unit is a -2 there. And another good roll. Get some serious luck here at this point. I don't know that we were terribly unlucky with Montfort previously. Push these forward. It's not necessarily an advantageous position. Now I'm going to roll for the 4 over here. Now the question is, do I just do... I'm going to try to trump in with Edward again. He does not get it. Means I have to pick one of my commands. And I'll go... I guess the best I can do is try to shoot up Edward with these archers. So we'll take a... Well, we'll take this shot first, which is, it's not a close enough battle. He's got a 1 penalty for the disorder, but he's +1 for his archery. That puts him at 0. Puts him at -1 for the fire. Because non-disordered. He gets a 7. That's going to disorder Edward's force. Edward himself makes a check. He's fine. We'll see if we can wipe him out. Should be about the same. That'll work. That's gonna wipe it out. So there go 2 more points, which I have to remember to score, and I check Edward again. And he goes to his nearest unit, 1, 2, it'll be back here. I'll score that, and he'll make another attempt at trying to get the initiative. And if he keeps failing, the battle could turn against Henry, who hasn't really entered it yet, but, you know, he's close. Hey, wait, he got attacked. Henry de Montfort manages to get rid of some of Henry III's troops. We got him down to an 8 now. Again, we're going to try with Edward, see if he can jump in. He fails, and now we get to take more shots at him. And you know, if you never get the initiative, the other guy is going to beat you eventually. Edward got his initiative, wiped out one of the archers. That brings him down to 2. I forgot to fire these archers. Let me take a shot with them. They're at -1, -2. It's like -3s. We'll go where we could possibly hit Simon. That's not going to do anything. That's not going to do anything. -3 is the best we can do, right? Yeah, well, wait, these are disordered units. -4 we could actually survive, I think. We could get our 9 on. Now we take our chance to see if Cornwall can fight. And Cornwall gets to come forward, and that's probably the doom of this unit. which will be enough to win the battle. A couple attacks on this turn. First, the infantry charging up the hill to the rear of this infantry. We're at -1 for going uphill, -1 for infantry, -1 for the leader. That's -3. Probably this is not going to do us any good. But we have +3 for the hitting in the rear. We get a 1. So we are disordered and retreat. But here we've got 3 units hitting, which gives us +2. We're hitting in the combined, that puts us up to +6. The leader gives us +7. Down to +6 for infantry, make it +5 for going uphill. Some of the units are going uphill, make it +5, that's it. Because the -1 here doesn't count because he's got a +1. So, what did we say, +5 or something like that? It's going to wipe it out. And that's enough points to get the victory. At which point, well, Simon de Montfort is probably not going to manage to install the reforms and demands that he had, but we'll go ahead and play the second battle after this, Evesham. Just because, I don't know, when I break out a game I like to do all the scenarios if I can. Some quick thoughts on this one. You know, yeah, I made a couple of screw-ups, but one thing that I like about this system, I don't really like dealing with the crappy components of this, but is just how fluid and flexible it is, giving you results that might not be quite the expected. What I've seen though is sometimes some of the games in Men of Iron, I got the opposite results of what I expected from them, given the historical situation in Berg's commentary, etc. So it doesn't surprise me too much. For example, Bannockburn. Bannockburn, Edward III tends to kick ass at, is that second? I don't know. I can't keep my Edward straight. But here, yeah, Edward II. Here we've got, you know, a situation that isn't that unbalanced in either direction, although I feel like the Royal Cav is probably easier to use effectively. It was not easy trying to defend against that, even with the hill and everything. This, you'd expect kind of Proto-Agincourt or something. No.